Starting off with the Angels, and I think they got to cash in on Yoan Moncada. They signed him to a cheap one-year deal this past offseason in hopes of a bounce-back season, and so far, he's doing pretty well. WRC plus at a 137, OPS at an 850 through 29 games. He has missed a little bit of time with injuries, but when he's on the field, he has been productive, and because he's been productive and he's on a cheap deal, the Angels need to take advantage of this. There's teams out there that are absolutely going to be looking for a bat, and because he's been productive and on a cheap contract, the Angels need to take advantage of this and get something good in return. On to the Astros, and I think they should trade for a left-handed bat, either in the outfield or second base. Now, the Astros are once again in the thick of things for a postseason spot, and they've done that with Jose Altuve out in left field and Yordan Alvarez working through injuries this year, who's also out right now with a hand fracture, so who knows when he's going to come back, but I think they needed a left-handed bat anyway. Even with Alvarez, they have so many righties. I say what they should do is get someone to go play left field. Jose Altuve can go back to second base, or you can just get a second baseman. That would be an upgrade over Mauricio Dubon. Now, if you're to go for a second baseman, I think someone like Brandon Lau could make some sense. If the Rays decide to sell, let's see what ends up happening with them. Or maybe someone like Ryan O'Hearn. He has experience in the outfield. He can go out to left. Or maybe even Austin Hayes if the Reds decide to sell. He's having a great year despite having some injuries. For the Athletics, I got JP Sears. Well, the A's stink again after a decent start, but they do have a valuable trade asset in JP Sears. Now, sure, the ERA and FIP are high right now, above a 5, but that's mainly due to the fact that he's given up a lot of runs in the last couple of starts, so that's inflated it some. But before that, he was pitching pretty well. Now, he has shown over the last few years that he can eat a lot of innings. He's not going to be very expensive. He's in arbitration right now, and he's under control through the 2028 season. I say try to move him now and get back some value for him. The Blue Jays are in a weird spot right now, sitting around 500, so it's hard to say if they're going to be buyers or sellers, so I'll give options for both. Now, if they buy, I think Andrew Heaney would be a solid addition here. Max Scherzer's been out all year with a thumb injury, and they only rank 21st overall in starting pitching Fangraph wins above replacement. You could also go to the Angels and maybe see what it would take to get Tyler Anderson. I think either of these guys would be solid pickups for the mid to back end of the rotation. Now, if they end up selling, I say they trade Chris Bassett. Now, he's in the last year of his contract. He's having a solid year, and he would be a good veteran addition with postseason experience for a contender out there. The Braves are also in an interesting spot, sitting 4 games under 500, but they're a team with a ton of talent that should be competing. Now, let's say they get themselves right. I think they need to add something for the back end of the bullpen since Raisel Iglesias has had a terrible year, a lot of ups and downs this year, but he's also in the final year of his contract. I think Felix Bautista would be a great move for the Braves. He gets a lot of ground balls. The Braves have a very good defense in the infield, and he would be the closer moving forward. If they end up selling, I say they move Marcell Ozuna. He's going to be one of the top free agents this offseason, and he's having another very good year, posting an OPS just around 900, and he'd be a huge upgrade for a lot of teams' lineups out there. Here's another team that's in an interesting spot, the Brewers. They've been red hot as of late. They've won 7 straight games at the time of this recording. They're a game and a half out of the wild card hunt, but up to this point, they have had their ups and downs, and the Cubs and the Cardinals are having good years, so who knows what it's going to be looking like for the Brewers in the next month or so. But if they do add, I think they should add something to this rotation. Now, you got Freddie Peralta, Jose Quintana just came back. Chad Patrick is having a pretty underrated year, in my opinion. Aaron Savali is a pretty solid veteran, but I don't think it would hurt them to add a veteran guy for this rotation to give them some more innings for the second half. And I'll mention a couple of guys who I just said earlier, Andrew Heaney, Tyler Anderson. I think they both fit this mold. Now, I think Heaney would be an interesting addition here. The Brewers are high on the analytics with their pitchers, and Heaney is kind of a metrics darling over the last few years, so I feel like that could be a pretty good fit. Now, if they end up selling, I think they should look into moving Freddie Peralta, and I know that might sound crazy because, like I said, the Brewers have been hot. They're always looking to compete, but with teams always looking to bolster their World Series chances, Peralta would be a huge addition for a lot of rotations out there, and the Brewers would be able to get a very good return for him considering the market. There's not going to be a whole lot of top-tier starting pitching this year, and Peralta is just very good. He's averaged a 3.61 ERA and 10 strikeouts per 9 over the last few years, and he has another year of control after this year before he hits free agency. Speaking of the Cardinals, they're also in an interesting spot. Coming into the year, the Cardinals didn't have many expectations as they were trying to clear payroll this past offseason, and Chaim Bloom is going to be the next president of baseball operations after this season. However, they've played very well up to this point. Taking a look at the current standings, they're 33-26. They have a wild card spot as we speak. They're 4 games out in the division. I don't think a lot of people saw the Cardinals doing this well, but here we are. Now, if the Cardinals were to add, I think it's interesting what they would do because, like I said, they were trying to clear some payroll this past offseason. They're kind of going through a bit of a transition with the organization. So would they want to give up, top tier prospects to go land someone? I'm not so sure about that, but I could see them maybe adding something to the bullpen. Now, if the Rays were to sell, I think Garrett Clevenger would be a solid addition for the Cardinals. He's been a very good lefty out of the Rays bullpen this year. ERA at a 2.49, but the FIP is at a 4.29 because he does give up a lot of home runs, but I think Busch Stadium would be a nice fit for him. Again, we'll have to wait and see what the Rays end up doing. Now, when it comes to the Orioles, they got a couple of guys, someone like Gregory Soto, I think could be a decent lefty for their bullpen. Maybe someone like Seranthony Dominguez, whoever it may be, someone for their bullpen I think would be good, someone that you wouldn't have to give up a lot of prospects for. I'll also still leave open the possibility that they could sell off some guys, and one guy that I'll keep in mind is Ryan Helsley. Now, he's had another good year this year, but he is going to be a free agent after this coming season, so who knows what the Cardinals are going to do there, but maybe they could do something with Ryan Helsley, trade him away, get back some value, and then maybe could slide one of these other guys into the closer role, someone like Phil Maton. Staying in the NL Central, and I think the Cubs should trade for Sandy Alcantara. Now, you might be thinking, Sandy's been terrible this year. Why would they want to trade for Sandy? Well, he is just coming back from Tommy John. Looks like he's still trying to find his way a bit, but the track record is very good with him, and the Cubs have been very good with pitching development in recent years, so I think that could be a good fit. He also gets a lot of ground balls, and the Cubs have a very good defense behind him, so I think that in itself would be a good fit. Now, the Cubs, they do need some starting pitching. They lost Justin Steele for the year, and Shota Imanaga is on the IL right now, so the Cubs, I think, really could use another arm in the rotation. On to the D-backs, and here's another weird one because they're surprisingly underachieving this year. They're 3 games under 500 at 28-31. They're 8.5 back in the division. They're 5 back in the wild card race. This is a team that was dead set on competing this year. They brought in Corbin Burns in the offseason. They had a very good-looking team, but here they are, not really doing all that much. But let's say they right the ship. I think they got to add something for the bullpen. They rank 29th in Fangraph wins above replacement with relief pitching right now. Justin Martinez, he's had his ups and downs this year, so I think they need to add a guy with some experience at the back end of the bullpen. And hey, why not add a little bit more velocity with Kyle Finnegan? ERA at a 2.61, FIP at a 2.65. He's got a good amount of saves this year. I think it'd be a nice addition for the bullpen. If they end up being sellers, though, they got a few interesting candidates, and I'm looking at Zach Gallen. Now, he hasn't had a great year this year. ERA at a 5.54, FIP at a 4.59. The strikeouts are down, the walks are up. He's giving up more hard hit balls this year, but still has a very good track record. He had a 5 wins above replacement season just a couple of years ago in their route to the World Series. So I think a team would definitely be interested in bringing on Zach Gallen. If not him, maybe Merrill Kelly. He's a free agent after this year. He's been pretty solid yet again this year. ERA and FIP in the 3s. And they got a bat in Eugenio Suarez as well, hitting for power yet again. 15 home runs, 500 on the slugging. There's also Josh Naylor. He's having a very good year, and he's going to be a free agent after this season, hitting 301, on base at a 357, a 470 on the slugging, a 128 WRC+. He'd be a very nice upgrade for a lot of teams. On to the Dodgers, and I think they need to add a dependable arm for the rotation. I mean, holy cow, look at all these injuries you got here. Tyler Glasnow, Roki Sasaki, Blake Snell. I mean, that's a lot of beef in the rotation that's on the injured list right now. I think they got to add someone that you can count on and a guy that's going to improve the ceiling of this rotation. To go with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's having a great year, I think Freddie Peralta would be an amazing addition if the Brewers do decide to sell. Again, you never know with the Brewers, but if they could find a way to pull off a deal for Freddie Peralta, man, oh man, that would be amazing. And they got the prospects to get something done. If not Freddie Peralta, I'm looking at a guy like Nick Martinez. That depends on if the Reds are going to sell, but he is a free agent after this year. He's having a very solid season, 11 starts, ERA at a 3.48, FIP at a 3.35. But the good thing about Martinez is he has flexibility to be in the rotation or in the bullpen. So when when those guys come back, you could just put him in the bullpen if that's what you wanted to do. Either way, gives them a flexible arm. If not him, like I mentioned, a couple other guys earlier, Andrew Heaney, Tyler Anderson, just someone dependable for the rotation is what I think the Dodgers need to do. On to the Dodgers' rivals, the Giants. They've been pretty solid this year. They're 33-26 at the time of this recording. They got a wild card spot, but I think they need to add something at first base. They ranked 27th overall in first base production this year. LaMonte Wade Jr. has not been very good for them. So what I think they need to do is add a right-handed bat for first base, and LaMonte Wade Jr. can be the lefty bat off the bench. If Rhys Hoskins becomes available, I think they absolutely need to go after this guy. He's been great as of late, slugging at a .475. If he's not going to be available, maybe Ryan Mountcastle. I know he's not having a great year, but does have a pretty good track record. Maybe the Giants could figure something out with him, maybe a change of scenery kind of a candidate, or maybe go with the lefty bat and you just put LaMonte Wade Jr. on the bench or whatever role. Ryan O'Hearn, like I mentioned earlier, he's been having a solid year, but I think most of all, the Giants needed to add something for first base, a right-handed bat preferably. The Guardians are right in the thick of things in the wild card race, but their starting pitching only ranks 27th in Fangraph wins above replacement, and I think a veteran starter like Zach Eflin could do a lot of good for them. Now, Cleveland, they have the worst walk per nine rate in the major league so far, and Eflin is one of the best strike throwers in baseball on an Orioles team that is absolutely going to sell. On to the Mariners, and let's get back to Yoan Moncada. I think he'd be a great fit for the Mariners. And sure, it would be an in-division trade with the Angels, but he's only going to be a rental, and the Mariners could really use an upgrade at third base. They only ranked 24th in offensive production there, and like I said earlier, Yoan Moncada, he's having a nice bounce-back year. However, they also rank 23rd in first base production, so I could look to see them making an upgrade there as well. Perhaps Rhys Hoskins, again, if he becomes available, and a couple other guys who I've mentioned already, Josh Naylor, Ryan O'Hearn, maybe Ryan Mountcastle, whatever it may be. I think the Mariners really need to improve at the corners in the infield. On to the Marlins, and since I already talked about Sandy Alcantara, let's focus on someone else, and I'm looking at Jesus Sanchez. He's having a good year against righties, hitting .270 with a 112 WRC plus against them, and he has a couple more years of control, so there is value there. He is only 27 years old still, so I think the Marlins could get something back for him. For the Mets, I have them getting Luis Robert. Now, here's another big trade chip, having a down year like Sandy Alcantara, but I also wonder if a change of scenery can do him some good too. Now, on a bright note, he's healthy this year, and he's showing a lot of athleticism with 21 stolen bases and good defense out in center field, and he has been better with the plate discipline this year. He just needs to get the bat going, and I think the Mets could be a good environment for him. Now, Jose Siri, he has a leg fracture, so who knows what's going to happen with him moving forward, and while Tyrone Taylor has done well against righties, I think they could use an everyday answer, and the things that Robert does well, I think could actually help the Mets. His defense out in center field, I think would help them. They only rank 18th in outfield defense this year, and his speed would help them out a little bit too, as they only rank 15th in stolen bases. For the Nationals, I say they look to move Nathaniel Lowe. Now, they traded for him this past offseason, and even though they have been playing better baseball as of late, they're still a bit out of the wild card hunt here, and sure, Lowe's numbers are a bit down this year, OPS at a 684 compared to 762 last year, but he is on pace again for right around 20 home runs, and he has another year of control, so that has value in itself. Now, for the Nationals, they do have someone like Brady House coming up next year, so perhaps they can trade Lowe now, get something back for him, and then they can go into the free agent market this year to get another first baseman. For the Orioles, I've already mentioned a few names already, but one that I haven't yet is Cedric Mullins. Now, he's down right now with a hamstring injury, but he's having a solid year at the plate, posting a 771 OPS, 10 homers, 8 stolen bases. Now, he's a free agent after this coming year, so I think the Orioles just need to move him at this point, especially with one of their top prospects, Enrique Bradfield Jr., getting closer to Major League ready. Speaking of the Orioles, I think the Padres should make a play for Tomoyuki Sagano. Now, they've had injuries in the rotation this year. Yu Darvish is still having problems with the elbow, but I think one guy who could be a good fit for their pitcher-friendly park is Sagano. Now, he's been pretty solid this year after coming over from Japan, has an ERA at a 3.23 over 11 starts. Now, he has been prone to the home run ball this year, and he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, which means his FIP is close to a 5. But again, the Padres, they need innings, and his fly ball rate rate, I think would fit well in that park. For the Phillies, I have them getting Pete Fairbanks. Now, Jose Alvarado got suspended recently. Jordan Romano's been up and down lately. And also, the Phillies bullpen only ranks 19th in fastball velocity. Well, one guy that I think could help them out is Pete Fairbanks if the Rays do sell. Now, he's got a very good ERA right now to 2.05, FIP at 2.72. He throws gas. Now, even though he does walk almost 5 batters per 9, he still gets the job done. Now, again, if the Rays decide not to sell, now there are some other arms out here, and I've already mentioned them. You got David Bednar, who I definitely think could be on the move, or Kyle Finnegan. Both those guys also have good velocity. I think would be good fits here. Speaking of the Pirates, and I wish I could say Paul Skeens here, but there's no way they're going to trade him, so I'm going to go with Mitch Keller. Now, he's in the middle of a team-friendly 5-year, $77 million contract, and he's always been very steady, one of the better starting pitchers in the game, and once again has solid numbers. Now, who knows if the Pirates would actually want to move him, because again, it is a team-friendly deal, but with the Pirates, they never want to spend money, so maybe they would like to clear this contract since they're not really doing anything this year, and I think because the contract is pretty team-friendly, I could see a lot of teams being interested. For the Rangers, I'll go with Austin Hayes. Now, this depends on if the Reds want to sell, but he is on a cheap 1-year, $5 million deal, has a mutual option, but the Rangers could really use a bat here. Their offense has completely stunk this year, and Hayes, he's having a very good year. 31 games, he did miss a little bit of time, but these numbers are looking great, hitting .303, a 137 WRC+. Now, the Rangers did recently call up one of their top prospects, Alejandro Osuna, but Hayes would be a very nice veteran bat to add into the mix. On to the Rays, and honestly, this one's kind of weird because the Rays are right there in the wild card hunt right now, but they've never really been big buyers besides Nelson Cruz a few years ago, and they're not really running away with anything, so who knows what their approach is going to be, but if they do buy, I can see them adding something small for the bullpen where they rank 20th in FIP right now, and they could use more strikeouts. Maybe someone like Sir Anthony Dominguez, who has good stuff in the Orioles bullpen, but he struggles with command. Maybe the Rays could fix him up. Now, if the Rays want to sell, well, they definitely have some candidates here. We already talked about Pete Fairbanks not too long ago. Brandon Lau we talked about in the beginning of the video. Yandy Diaz, don't forget about him. He was on the rumor mill last trade deadline, ended up staying put, but he has a good track record with the bat. And someone like Zach Littell could be a good back-end starter. On to the Red Sox, and as of right now, it's a wait and see. There's still a few games under 500, so if they don't figure things out, I could see them selling, but if they do get themselves back on track in the month of June, I could see them adding a dependable starter for the rotation. Now, Garrett Crochet, he's been amazing this year, but after that, it's been very up and down, very inconsistent. There's been injuries. Guys haven't been able to go deep into games. They only rank 16th overall in starting pitching Fangraph wins above replacement right now. So I think a dependable guy behind Crochet, while these other guys figure it out behind them, I think it'd go a long way. And one guy that I just talked about earlier is Mitch Keller. Now, again, he is on a contract right now, but I think it would be a solid guy to add to the rotation for the next few years for the Red Sox. Now, if they wanted to go with, say, a rental, maybe Nick Martinez, who I just talked about earlier, he has flexibility to go between the rotation and the bullpen, and the Red Sox, they got a lot of starters, so that could be something where it could be a good fit with Nick Martinez. Or if they really wanted to make a splash, maybe Freddie Peralta, who I talked about earlier, he would be under control for next year because they have the club option. They got prospects. I don't know if they would want to dish out a big package for someone like Freddie Peralta after just trading for Crochet this past offseason, so we'll just have to wait and see. Out of these guys, though, I think Nick Martinez would be the most realistic. Now, if they end up selling, they got a few candidates here that they could definitely trade. Aroldis Chapman, he's been very good this year, has 9 saves, ERA under a 2. I think it would be highly sought after at the deadline. Someone like Walker Buehler, he's been up and down this year, but he could be a good addition for a lot of rotations out there. Lucas Giolito, same thing. He's still trying to work through some things, so maybe a team would want to take a chance on him, or maybe the Red Sox could go big. Someone like Jarren Duran, an electric leadoff hitter that I think could really boost a lot of lineups out there. And for the Red Sox, you might be thinking, well, why would they trade Jarren Duran? Well, they got Roman Anthony coming up the pipe, and Jarren Duran has value right now. They could definitely get a good return for him. On to the Reds, and they're another team in a weird spot, a team with a lot of talent, but they're underachieving. Now, if they end up buying, I think they could look to add another bat. They only rank 23rd in offense on the year, while also having the 6th highest strikeout percentage on the year so far. Now, when it comes to first base production, production, they rank dead last in the major leagues. So I could definitely see them making an upgrade there. We just talked about Yandy Diaz, a guy that doesn't really strike out all that much. I think he would be perfect for their lineup if the Rays decide to sell. We already talked about Ryan O'Hearn. He's been pretty solid at getting on base this year. He'd be a nice upgrade for them too. If they end up selling, they got a few candidates here as well. We already talked about Austin Hayes. He has been hurt a little bit this year. He's on the IL right now, but again, the bat's been very good with him. Emilio Pagan, I know they just traded away Alexis Diaz, but Emilio Pagan, he's having himself a pretty solid year in the bullpen as well, so that could definitely be good for some other teams out there. And Nick Martinez, who I just mentioned earlier. For the Rockies, they need to find a way to move German Marquez. Now, the Rockies stink, and Marquez hasn't been very good this year, but the FIP is a 4.16 compared to the ERA at a 7.13 because he doesn't walk a lot of batters and he keeps the home runs down. So I think he could be a good fit at some other ballparks. On to the Royals, and I think Cedric Mullins would be a very good add here. Now, the Royals outfield ranks dead last in offense this year, and Mullins, I think, would be a nice upgrade, whether if he takes over in center field for Kyle Isbell or maybe he could move over to right. On to the Tigers, and I'll go with David Bednar. Now, we talked about him earlier, but I think Bednar would be a very good fit for the Tigers. Now, the Tigers bullpen has been up and down this year, and they only rank 26th in strikeouts per 9, while David Bednar has a very good strikeout rate, right around 12 strikeouts per 9. I think they could use another arm back there. They've been going back and forth with closing opportunities between Will Vest and Tommy Kahnle, and with Bednar, we all know he has very good experience closing. Now, he has had a lot of ups and downs going back to last year. He did just go back to the minor leagues this year, but after coming back up, he's been very good. And also, with the Tigers too, they got one of the best pitching coaches in all the land in Chris Fetters. So if things went haywire, I think that would be a good environment for David Bednar as well. On to the Twins and have them getting Andrew Chafin. Now, the Twins are looking pretty solid right now. They're right there in the wild card mix, and their bullpen has been very good this year. They actually ranked first in Fangraph wins above replacement, but one of their best relievers, Danny Colomb, just went down with an elbow injury, so who knows what's going to happen with him. So I say they go after another lefty in Andrew Chafin, who's always been pretty dependable out of the bullpen. He's having a pretty good year this year. Not a whole lot of time so far, but 12 games, ERA at 2.00, FIP at a 2.86. On to the White Sox, and if there's anyone they could trade besides Luis Robert, I think it's Mike Tauchman. Now, he's been hitting great as of late, and he's shown in recent years that he does a great job at getting on base. I think he'd be a solid fourth outfielder for a team in need of a left-handed bat. And last but not least, I think the Yankees need to add someone at third base. Now, DJ LeMahieu has pretty much shown you that he's got nothing left in the tank. Oswald Peraza hasn't really shown you much either, and Oswaldo Cabrera is out for the year with an ankle injury. Now, they have Jazz Chisholm coming back from a strained oblique, and they say that he's going to play third, but I think he'd be a better fit at second base because of the range he has. One option I've already mentioned is Yoan Moncada. I think his lefty bat would fit great at Yankee Stadium, but with Jazz Chisholm coming back, do they want to add another lefty bat to that lineup? That would be a lot of lefties if you ask me. Another option is Nolan Arenado. They've been connected with him going back to the offseason, but he's not really doing all that much with the bat. Did get off to a pretty hot start, but nothing as of late. You know you're going to get the good defense with him, but I don't know with Nolan Arenado, especially with all the money he's making. Do the Yankees want to bring on that contract when you're not really getting much of the bat anyway? I don't know. Now, Ryan McMahon, I feel like they've been connected with him forever now. He's a guy that's on a pretty team-friendly deal. He's got a decent on base this year at 328, but the WRC plus is only 83. I don't know if the Yankees would be interested in him. Now, there is Eugenio Suarez, who I mentioned earlier. If the Diamondbacks become sellers, I think there could be a very good connection here. Like I said, he's going to be a free agent after this season. He would give them some very good pop in the middle of the lineup there. Now, if they wanted to go with a cheaper option, maybe someone like Emmanuel Rivera or Santiago Espinal, everybody, those are the trades that I'm thinking of as of right now. Now, I'm going to do this video quite a few times leading up to the deadline, so this is volume 1 of this series. We'll definitely do this again, but let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What trades do you want to see? What players do you think would be good fits for teams out there? Let me know down below in the comments. But everybody, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit the like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.